I am reading through the book of Mark right now, and I'm actually kind of stuck in chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. It talks about the paralytic man whose four friends took him to see Jesus, and when he couldn't get there because of the crowds, his friends climbed him up and took him up on top of the roof, and they literally dug through the roof so that they could drop him down on his pallet to the feet of Jesus so he could encounter him. And what I realized is this man needed two traits to be able to encounter Jesus. The first was desperate, determined faith. He needed to know that he needed to see Jesus without a doubt, because he was going to have to ask his friends to go and do something crazy just so that he could encounter Jesus. And the second thing that he needed was humility. And not just any kind of humility, the kind of humility that opens him up to humiliation. Because he had to put away all of his pride and ask his friends to do these things. They could have told him he was crazy. They could have told him he had lived with this infirmity his whole life, so there was no point in trying. He could have been told that there were too many people and he'd never get to Jesus. But he had to be so humble that he begged his friends. He said, I know it's crazy, but you gotta get me on the roof. You gotta get me down. I need to encounter Jesus. And while I was thinking about this humility, I realized that in us there can be so much pride that we aren't willing to ask for these things, ask for the help. And what is this really coming from? This destructive pride is actually coming out of fear. It's a fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear that it's just not going to work. And we spend our lives stuck because of fear that masquerades as pride. For me, it's I can do it myself. I don't need to ask for help. When really, it's if I ask for help, they're going to think I'm lazy. If I ask for help, they're going to think I'm needy. And goodness, I could go on and on about my own personal struggle with pride that is fear. But I just wanted to challenge you to ask yourself, what pride is it in your life that is actually a fear that's keeping you from encountering Jesus? Do you need to ask for help? Do you need to put aside your pride and your fear that you're not good enough and just say, God, I need you. I've tried on my own 1,000 times. It's just these things we get into our own heads. I know I can't be the only one. We get into our own heads and we cycle through this idea of all of the fears, and we don't want to call them pride, and we don't want to call our pride fears. These two words, they're just they get to our get just right in us, and we don't want to admit it. But what is it that is a pride fear that is stopping you from encountering Jesus?